Yeah,
Okay, well,
sometimes a
we're
little
gonna
slow.
start because we have about 40 people that's gonna join from this link that we had for LinkedIn, and that was the link that went out in the email. So I'll just keep admitting people as we go. But thank you guys for coming and joining me on this talk. We had a little bit of a pre-chat about this talk, and it's really you guys that have your ears to the ground. It's you guys that are listening to people. They're coming to you for jobs. They're trying to find out what they need to do in this job market, whether they're freelancers or people that work in the fashion industry, in different fashion roles. So let's kind of get started. We have about 11 people, and I'll just keep admitting everybody as they come in. If you guys can just keep your cameras off and your microphones off, that would be great. But let's get started. So I kind of started going through some of the things that were going on in the market. There's a lot of major shifts happening, some of it due to AI, some of it due to digital automation, and people's roles are starting to either morph or totally disappear, unfortunately. There's a lot of layoffs happening. This time of year, we kind of know that that's like a cyclical thing that people lay people off at the end of the year. And then come February, March, all of a sudden, they're hiring for those roles again. But it's a corporate thing, so we're going to kind of compare, contrast with corporate and with freelancing. So we're going to kind of go through both of those kind of mindsets and see what people can start to do and start to change to be able to get either their own stream of income or getting into other companies and what they're actually looking for. So, there's a lot of talk about companies like Nike laying people off, PVH, like huge volumes of people are, I want to say, transitioning into having to look for another role, right? So being forced to look for another role and not really expecting these changes coming up. But I think, corporate, they always know months in advance that this is coming down the line. So, it's not a surprise for them. One of the things that I wanted to ask as far as our first question, before we get into our questions, let's let people get to know you guys a little bit. Just give a little bit, we had your bios online, but let's, hear you guys give your introduction to what you're all about.
I can start. Hi, everybody. I'm Mikkel Drew Pelham. I am a designer. I am a product manager, a product developer, teacher, many things. My company is 383 Design Studio, but I'm also working with J. Crew, and I also teach for the Fashion Institute of Technology and a couple of other universities. Um, I do a lot of different things. Advocate for digital technology and using it in ways that actually help designers and not just give us more stuff to do. Um, but yeah, that's me.
Oh, I can follow up. Hey everyone, my name is Connor
Thank you,
Conlog.
Connor.
I've been in the industry for quite a bit. I don't know, over 13 years. And my background is in a little bit of everything from design to product development to technical design, pattern making to PLM training, implementations, 3D in terms of development and training and implementations. I've worked at a variety of places doing all those types of roles, so I wear many hats. Relevant to this session, I've worked at Browseware as the lead trainer for quite a bit, and I've also started a service firm called At Ease, and now I'm kind of doing my own thing. So here we are.
Awesome,
Hi
Jay.
everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jay Wei. I'm the founder of Attila WCMF, and I've been in the fashion industry for over 20 years now. My background was in design, women's wear. I graduated from Central Saint Martin with my BA, and then I learned a lot like technical skills along the way to back up my creative like project and things like that. And then I've been freelancing since 2006. just kind of alongside of building my own brand and working with different scale and different caliber of the brands, like from luxury to even startup. So it's just the nature of me. I like to collaborate with different type of people and just learn from like maybe different problem from different area of the industry. Yeah, and then I blending my traditional background with digital. Okay, I think I was not able to unmute, but now I can. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so basically, after building my own brand for years, and I just know there are like what are the problems and maybe obstacle, like certain brand at certain stage, what they're gonna like, they need help with. So what I'm doing now is basically just blending my traditional skill with the new technology like 3D software and also like some AI tools to kind of help like brands or even entrepreneur if they want to start some journey, kind of like, yeah, how to make the design and product development process more streamlined and also like less wasteful. Because that's, yeah, my big thing is about like, I've been in the industry for so many years and I have seen so many unsustainable practice just during this beginning phase of the creation process. And I just really want to like do my small part to change that. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Like I said, welcome and thank you guys for joining us. And I just wanted to start getting into what we're talking about today because you guys are all experts in that. Um, I mentioned a few big companies streamlining. You know, they're taking people out of the job market for different reasons. What are some of the things that you guys are seeing in the job market right now? Like, what are some of the things that stand out, especially during this time of layoffs, unfortunately? Michael, you want to start?
There we
Okay.
go. You mean in terms of what people are, or like reasons that they might be laying people off, that kind of
Or
thing?
just like what are some of the reasons and why do you think hiring has stopped? What are some of the things like is it the budget or is it something that they're cautious about when it comes to digital? Like what are some of the reasons why people are getting laid off in the industry?
Yeah, well, I'm working in on a product operations team that works very closely with the HTS team,
Mm.
which for those of you who don't know, they are the people who deal with tariffs.
Mm.
If I heard tariffs once this year, I've heard it a million times.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that a lot of companies are going through layoffs and budget cuts and things like that is because there were a lot of issues this year because of tariffs, and the tariffs kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth,
Mm.
and it affected a lot of people's bottom line. So while I also believe that a lot of this was already coming, that's just my personal opinion, just from watching other things. That definitely did not help. And so by the end of the year, a lot of people's projected sales were definitely not as high as they thought they would be. And then
Mm.
there's a lot of uncertainty of what's going to happen with the tariffs next year. And so I think that that alone was a reason for people to be, to just start saying, okay, well, maybe we have to start cutting teams.
Mm.
And that I think that's a big part of it.
Okay. All right. Jade, do you have anything to say on that?
I think because I'm more in a freelance space, so
Mm.
it's I think layoff is not really a problem. It's like it's easier to get new project or new client.
True.
But actually, in a space that I'm in, I actually see more opportunity than ever, really.
Mm.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's connected. Like people want to lay
Yep.
off full-time job, but they want to employ freelancers instead.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I'm experiencing in some way. And also like from certain conversation I have my clients or potential clients, yeah, they just find it's more risky now. If they hire someone full time, they almost have to calculate like how much value they get from that full time employee, then
Right.
just maybe pay a freelancer for a particular project. They know how much profit for that particular project. They can calculate easier for the profit that way. So that's where I kind of like maybe my little piece of puzzle to this.
Yeah. So I think kind of that goes right into what you're actually doing now these days with freelancers and working with different people in different roles, maybe part-time. What is your take on it?
So kind of
I
following
think
up.
what,
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
go
I
for it, Jade.
thought, no,
Go
no, no,
ahead.
no, no.
All right. I just want to just follow up on both of the ideas that were brought up. I mean, tariffs is the theme this year for sure. We are a trend focused industry. We love trends, and the trend of this year is tariffs, and we react to those trends all the
Mm,
time. So it's like, oh, how do we get ahead of the curve? Well, from the corporate side, layoffs might be an option, but also it's also figuring out where can we move our resources to, and like, oh, maybe we need to build up the design department over new technologies. So it's kind of
mm.
like all these moving parts, and if one broken part messes up one thing, it'll react to the other sections of any type of company. So cause and react, and more on react.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've experienced that in my company as well, where, you know, streamlined certain departments where, maybe they had 3 or 4 employees and now they have one employee doing that one role. And that kind of adds on to the different, skill sets that they have to, now come up with now that those roles are kind of being merged together.
Yeah,
But a lot of roles, like even traditional roles, this is a reason why things are morphing and changing into um, having your skill set that maybe you've got, 20 years of experience, like many of us here, but then all of a sudden you're pushed into doing a double or even a triple role. Like, those roles don't disappear really. They kind of evolve into like a hybrid type of situation for companies, and they're going to get more value out of you as that worker that that has more roles. But it's also interesting what you said, Jade, that even now people are looking for freelancers to do certain things and keeping all the expenses streamlined and all of the communication streamlined. Like that means a lot for the freelance industry as well, or people coming out of full-time jobs and going into freelance. So that's really important. Um, so a designer today is not just a designer. A designer can be a product developer, right? A designer can be a 3D artist. A designer can be, all of these different things. A technical designer, like there's so many things being put into different places. What do you guys say about that situation as far as the workforce is concerned? And also in freelancing, so, in freelancing, then companies are looking for people to fill all of those roles, maybe even for a short period of time. So then it becomes, double or triple the ask of what you would for a regular freelancing situation. So, Michael, you want to start talking on that point? Yeah. Oh, it doesn't do it every time I talk. I guess it does every time I talk. Hello. Okay, there you go.
Hi. I think I came in on the participant side and not the host side, and
Okay, okay,
yeah,
okay.
so
Next time, don't worry.
but
The AI conversation, you'll be on. Everybody will be on. Good.
but I did want to say when Jade and Connor were talking about freelancers, I
Mhm.
do feel like I've been seeing I'm the person who gives people PLM access.
Okay.
And I do feel like I've been seeing a lot more freelancers coming into J Crew. So to Jade's point, the flip side of this is that people are starting to, bring in freelancers, whether it's short term or not. I mean, I was used to permalance, which is what we used to call it,
Mm.
where you were brought in for 2 weeks and all of a sudden 2 years later
It's
you're
six
still
months.
there.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that's kind of a good thing for it, if you want to freelance. Um, but the second thing is, sorry, what was the question?
Basically, like roles are morphing, right? And then people are doing more, and companies are getting more value from that. But what does that mean for the freelancer? What does that mean for the industry as a whole?
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings about that because even when I was freelancing at the time, I kind of felt like it was a good thing because I could do a lot of different things, right?
Hmm.
So I was a designer, but then I could also do all of my own graphics. I could do prints. I did all the CADs. I pretty much did everything. And so on the one hand, it kept me very valuable. And during that downturn in 2008, where a lot of designers had lost their jobs, I was
Hmm.
still working because I got moved from one department to another department. They ran out on this one. They were like, oh, they need help
Right.
over here. Can you do this? Yeah, I can do that. So that was helpful. However, I was young and did not realize that at the time, um, these different roles uh cost different things.
Mm.
Your value and what you were bringing to it also meant that you should be paid more. And
Hmm.
what was happening was I came in as a CAD artist and I ended up designing, I ended up doing graphics, I ended up doing all these different things. I was there for years and years and years, but I was
Mm.
kept at the same rate. Now, on the flip side, I often was still like teaching and doing other things. So when I was like, I need to go and teach a class, they were very flexible about that. So the trade-off for me was like, all right, I'm not getting paid what I really should, but like when I need to do something, I just tell them I need to do it and they agree.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I think sometimes agreeing to those lower rates just because you feel slightly desperate and you're like, I gotta work, keep in mind that it affects all of us because if one company now believes that they can get you to do 10 different things for the rate of an assistant,
Hmm.
then the next person who is coming in and saying, I need to get paid a lot more because this is a lot more valuable, it takes a lot more time and a lot more resources, they are going to have a harder time getting that rate because there's other people over here saying I'll do it for 20, $25, $30 cheaper.
Yeah.
And then also for you, the person who's doing it at that lower rate, you're not getting paid what you should be paid. So I just invite everybody to stick to, really really understand what you do, what it's worth, and be real adamant about that. And the more of us that do that, the less we'll have all of these like $5 jobs for
Oh my goodness.
for people
But
asking
that's what it seems
for
like. You know, it's the
something that
$5
should be
rule.
worth $2,000, $3,000 and they trying to pay you 1,000.
Yeah, but Jade, I'm going to turn to you for that. But I will say my little freelancer 2 cents here is that you diminish the value and you increase the skill set, and it just really causes people in the industry not to understand what they're getting. They don't understand why these skills cost so much if everyone's kind of downplaying out of desperation, or I mean, people need to eat, but it does cause a ripple effect. So Jade, I'll turn to you for a little response on that.
Yeah, I think yeah, quite a lot of thing I agree with Mikhail. Like basically, because I'm a hybrid designer myself, like technically I'm quite capable. Pattern making is one of my strong foundation.
Hmm.
And in the past, like even if I'm not doing design project, a lot of it is technical, basically pattern cutting, because that's the more high value skill people, brands want to pay for.
Hmm.
So I did do quite a lot like project based on that. But then like, yeah, when you switch like roles, and I do feel like, yeah, there's a point, okay, like basically pointed. I feel that's why I'm now heavily kind of like propose to people like don't charge hourly rate. Try to learn project base and based on the value of that project, and then you price it. Obviously, if you're a beginner, you should still maybe, yeah, try the hourly rate but for a while, but you gotta learn like how to kind of like adjust the time, but learn the value of the project that you deliver for the brand. So then you can start learn how to charge by project.
Hmm.
And I think that's an easier way for people to get out of the hamster wheel, like as you, if you say, like swapping time for money. Because I think when you are a freelancer, the beginner normally is swapping time for money, and I've done it many years, like in the beginning. But I feel like, yeah, you end up you are running a business for yourself, really, being a freelancer. So you really have a lot other things to kind of consider, not just, okay, I'm getting paid how much for this project, based on the time I put into it. Because as a freelancer, there's so many other things you need to put in to make your business work on top of the work you're actually doing. So yeah, and also like for myself, like example, if I don't charge more, how would I have the freedom and time and extra resource, like in terms of money, to invest myself, learning 3D, learning other new skill? And those are the things like I think anyone they want to go into a freelance space, they really need to consider all this as well. Not just like, try to compare your salary of what you can pay before monthly from
Yes.
a corporate.
Mhm.
You really should even think more because there's a lot more you need to cover for yourself as well.
Yeah, and I think that's Michael, you were just saying something about profit. Like you have to also realize that, we'll just coin the term, your $5 skills are actually making millions of dollars for the company, right? So where do you fit into that as far as value, what you're offering as far as value to that contribution of millions of dollars? Like your CADs are actually pushing the garment forward, into production. All of that is happening. Even your 3D or whatever digital skills and everything that you're bringing to the table is pushing the company forward. So, Connor, I'll let you finish up on um,
Yep.
this point exactly, because I know you have a wide base of seeing these
Yeah.
things happen in real time.
I'm like thinking of all these stories, and Mikkel and Jade brought up very familiar stories. Uh, but for someone as an individual to like have all these tools is great for them personally, you as a freelancer or as like a salaried employee.
Mm,
For the company, yes, if they find out, oh, you're doing more things, let's try you in this role, and then they get used to this pattern of, oh, quote unquote, a designer should be able to now pattern make and sample sew. Go for it. Don't get OSHA involved. And so, like, there's a story, right? Like, with technical design. Technical design is a relatively new role. It was created as a bridge, a gapping bridge between designers and pattern makers.
mm,
What happened was the Western side of the world was getting too comfortable with just being siloed into one certain role. You see this with bigger companies. And then they start losing the skill set of, oh, I forgot how to pattern make. So, or how to do a proper fitting. So the technical design role was created. So there's probably going to be more trends of like this type of like job happening where, okay, there's now this new gap. Everyone's doing things differently. So maybe a new role exists. Uh, or if everyone just does the same thing and just starts learning everything and doing everything, then you have the quote unquote designer, jack of all trades, doing everything. So there's obviously two paths that are happening in this industry. Like either you do everything or a new role exists and someone will fill that gap.
mm.
Um, Big or small, like the smaller companies, you're going to have an individual doing everything, whether it be pattern making, even product development, sourcing.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I'll be honest, for me, like I try to kind of limit how much information I give my employer to how many skills I might have because, I'll be in the fitting, I'll be doing the 3D, I'll be doing all the tech packs. And sometimes you have to just like make sure that they know that you're of value, but don't give away all of your pearls at the same time. But on that note, what do you guys think are the key things for a design role, a technical design role? What are the key skill sets that will lock you in? Even a freelancer. People are looking to freelancers and they want to know like, can you do this? Can you do that? What are those skills that people need to offer to corporations or individual companies? Michael,
Okay.
do I have to unmute you? Okay, every time. Oh my God. Hold on a second. Wait, see. There it is. Okay.
Okay, I've realized that I just need to stay unmuted.
Yeah, okay,
I didn't
yeah,
want
yeah.
I didn't want y'all to be hearing my cats in the back whining. Anyway,
Okay. Go ahead.
um, as antiquated as I've heard people say it is, a few people, I do still think that Illustrator is valuable for pretty much every designer, some technical designers. But you know, there's so much new technology out there, but most companies, a lot of companies still go back to, I just need you to do a flat sketch and a tech pack and we'll send it overseas, and that's the tools they're using. I mean, it is what it is. There are many more companies that are starting to ask for AI. Okay, capital A, capital I,
Mm.
not to be confused with a
Adobe.
capital A, small I. Um, very specific functions. So I know there's some people who are like playing around with Midjourney and things like that. I have been very vocal about how there are only but so many things that I think are actually valuable in AI right now to us. One of which being the sketch to image, because I feel like that becomes the bridge between that and 3D. Meaning, it's a quick way to get a photorealistic looking idea of what your sketch is going to look like so that somebody, a merchant can come in and look at it and say, "Oh, I love that. Let's sample it." And
Right.
then go into 3D. Um, and 3D, I love it. That I think will help make you more valuable as a designer. But knowing at least in the US that there aren't as many companies that are asking for it right now. There's nothing saying that they won't in the future. I think it was at one point a bigger deal. And then AI just kind of creeped in, and all of a sudden, everybody thinks that that's the end all be all, and that's going to solve all our problems. I think they will realize sooner rather than later that it won't.
Mm.
But until then, so what that also means is that you have a little bit more time to, get your 3D skills up. And either way, I don't think that it will hurt or harm for you to know how to use 3D because it is definitely a really great tool, a very valuable tool. Particularly if you are a technical designer, because that's for a lot of companies, that's where it's starting in tech design, not on the fashion designers. But
Mhm.
even as a fashion designer, I think it's a really great skill to have. But my number one, not just because I love it and I teach it, but because I really do think that it is valuable. My number one is, I would tell people, if nothing else, learn Illustrator.
Yeah. And it's so funny because now there's a bridge between AI and Illustrator that people are looking to fill that void. So even if you go from image to sketch or sketch to image, they want you to be able to manipulate the sketch to be exactly what the garment's going to represent. So
Yep.
Illustrator is definitely a strong skill to learn. And Jade, what would you say as far as freelancers, like coming into, if you have your own business as a freelancer, which is, suggested, what are some of the skills that people are looking for from freelancers?
I think 3D, but then on the technical side, not the visualization side.
Okay.
So I think like what's important is about, are you able to provide solution that brands can basically repeat, like for example, pattern or solitaire pack, those things can help brand to repeatedly have
Mhm.
product that are made, you know, consistency in quality and fit. Those are the things that are valuable because visual, it doesn't create clothes. So I feel it's those kind of like solid blueprint for going down to the manufacturer. What do
Mhm.
you actually need? Because for me, as a freelancer for years, I built my own system. Basically, now it's like I call it like Holy Trinity. I will provide pattern, tech pack, and maybe the first sample. So with these three things to go into production, it really helped eliminate sample round and miscommunication. So I think it's like any, I would suggest like for freelancer to kind of looking more into the problems like brands have. then kind of figure out what solution you can kind of build your skills to help to kind of like solve that problem for the brands.
Hmm.
And that then people are willing to pay for your skill. Because I feel like for many freelancers, maybe they too focus on figuring out their deliverables, but actually deliverables sometimes doesn't equal to outcomes.
Hmm.
So you have to really maybe like reevaluate your deliverable. Do they kind of like relate to the something like tangible, for the brand? What does that deliverable actually would bring the result? I think it's things like this for freelancer. It's more like critical thinking rather than kind of go with like, okay, other freelancer are just creating tech pack or just sketch from Illustrator, this type of thing. I think like for the freelancer, because there's more and more freelancer these days. How do you kind of like become a more valuable freelancer to brand? One thing we talk about like more skill, okay, that's one thing. But at the same time, I don't believe every freelancer have to kind of like be someone like me or Mikhail, like, multiple skill. If you want to focus on one particular thing, but you gotta understand, like, okay, what are the problems people are facing with that one particular deliverables, and how can you make it better, to reduce those kind of mistakes or collaborate with other people to build a better system for the brand. Just like solution thinking, I would say, is a mindset like, yeah, it's quite
And
important for
that's, yeah,
freelancers.
that's got to take a little research on the freelancer's part and asking questions when you finally get that opportunity to go in front of someone. You've got to be able to field those kinds of questions and make your person who's looking for you to hire you tell you what their problems are. They're going to think that you already know. So if you do your research before you get there, that'll be great. But you can also ask, questions that will help them see where you're going and what you can offer as far as what their problems are. I know, Connor, you have again plethora of experience with all these different types of companies, whether it's, from ad ease or from working with freelancers, getting these kinds of skills together for a person is kind of a little bit of a difficulty, I guess, from coming from a corporate world and entering into a freelance situation. What is your take on this question?
So I think it's more skills and concepts that people need to learn, or just have.
Hmm.
Yes, like Illustrator is important, but Illustrator wasn't even a fashion tool to begin with. It was a vector-based tool that everyone felt familiar with after using it a couple times, after they learned the Bezier curve concepts. So yeah, I mean, before that, everyone was Xeroxing everything. So when I came to the industry, that's when everyone was transitioning out of the Xerox. Oh, draw one half of your flat, go to the Xerox machine and get the other side. And
Mm.
then they're like, oh yeah, Illustrator should be the standard. So like learning the concepts of like, oh, creating the Bezier curves in the Illustrator tool with the pen tool. Like when people like say learn the software, it's not really the entirety of the software. It's more of, oh, can you use these tools to make something that we already have? And like another tool that I would say like designers should know, especially in the apparel industry, just Photoshop. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can make your color changes on your flats in Illustrator, but also can you manipulate some pixel-based images, so bitmap format. And for like people in the roles of like technical design or pattern making, maybe you know how to draft a pant, you know the ins and outs, you know your inseams and how it fits, but do you know tops? Do you know knit pants? So it's like kind of like pushing yourself out there to learn a different type, but type of product, but also something familiar. It's I would say the concepts uh, is more important than the trendy tools out there.
Yeah.
Or maybe you know or as a pattern maker or technical designer, you don't know Illustrator, but you know pattern making software. Then it's like, okay, now you need to understand the cross functionalities, how this tool can translate to another. For instance, like, oh, you're using 3D, like a Clover browseware. Have you tried using Blender or SolidWorks or something like that? Kind of just like learning everything so that you understand more about what you're doing. rather than
Right.
being siloed and kind of stuck in one area.
And I think you're absolutely right on that. And I think you and Jade kind of hit on the same subject. Even though you kind of want to make yourself spread out, I want to say, with all of your different skills that you can offer, you have to have a niche. You have to have the thing that you're known for. Hey, look, your tech pack, your sample, this is going to be stellar. Your Illustrator sketch, top notch, right? This is what I'm known for. This is what I'm coming to the table with. Find out what the needs are from the company and see where you can position yourself to be even more added value. You don't necessarily have to tell them, yeah, I do 3D, I do tech packs, I do all of this kind of stuff, but find out where their need is and then pitch yourself to that. But you've already got in front of them because of the niche that you're providing. So whether you're providing sweaters, swimwear, whether you're providing evening wear, whatever it is that is your niche. And the niche might not always be the category. The niche might be your pattern making skills. The niche might be your communication, right? You've been to the factory, you know what they need to know. These are the things that people look for from freelancers and from people entering the market to kind of be able to solve those problems for them. So that was definitely very insightful, you guys.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, you can.
Just something that kind of said that I think that it's really important that you educate yourself, not only just to be flexible and then kind of understand like what you actually like to do, because we spend a lot of time on these computers and doing all these things. Like, hopefully you like it. But
Mhm.
the other thing is, understanding what all these tools are and what all these processes are so that when you go to these companies, you can get to the root of what they actually need. Because
Okay.
one of the things that I found when I first started freelancing, and I mean, it was a long time ago, but um, I would go to companies and they would list off, well, we need this, and this, right? And I understood what these tools were. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you using this for? What are you using this for? And then you realize these folks aren't actually, they don't really need these tools. They're just saying it because everybody else is saying that they got them. So they feel like they should have them too. So it's also to your benefit to be able to speak directly to, okay, well, this is what this is for. What are you actually using this for? So that then you can say to them, well, I think what you really need is this and this, and I can help you with that. And they're not trying to pile on a million other things when you know and you can advise them, because that is part of your job as the freelancer to say, really all you need is this and this.
But yeah, I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that these are things that you have to discover over time. Like you said, Michael, what is actually your love, your passion, because that's going to come across no matter who you meet. That part is going to come across. So I think we need to explore that in ourselves a little bit. Hopefully, during this time of holiday vacation type of situation that we have going on, people can start to do that and have a little bit of self-discovery. One of the things that came up is that whole AI thing. So we know we've got a lot of things going against us as creatives, right? We've got AI, we've got tariffs, we got bottom lines not happening on different companies. But what are some of the things that you guys think about AI shaping the industry? Now, I know, Michael, you mentioned a few things about, you and I both know, like, we've been doing a deeper discovery, Jade. I think you also have, Kana, I'm sure you have as well, of what is actually out there that can be utilized. Like, what are brands using? Like, what are they using it for? What are, some of the expectations that people can expect when they're hired to kind of maybe know or have some kind of knowledge of? Um, it's not all pretty. It's definitely not all pretty with AI. The pictures are pretty, but there's a lot behind the scenes that people, if unless you go deep, you kind of don't see what's really going on in the industry. People want inspiration. My personal feeling is that the whole genre of generative AI has taken over the tear sheet. It's taken over the mood board. It's taken over all of the creative input that we got from other sources that are real humans doing real work. So there's kind of a lean on that industry to reject it, in that sense. But there's also a pileup of too many different types of inspirations and too many repeat things that as a designer, you kind of like, okay, what am I even looking up? Like, what am I even seeing? Like, if I look up something vintage, I'm gonna get an AI image, and that's not really realistic. So where do I find my inspiration? Is also that. But what do you guys see that brands actually are starting to use AI for, and what are some of the skills people might want to start looking into?
Well, on my side, I have a direct connection to this because I was just part of a test group
Mhm.
for a company. And what they were trying to solve is a quicker way to assort their line and to cut down on the number of samples that they would have to get. Um, and initially, we were exploring the realm of 3D to do that. But what was happening was that one, the expense of the hardware and the software, and then
Mhm.
two, just the time. Like it was just they weren't going to hire another team, and it was just too much of a workload to put onto the existing team. And so they were trying to find other ways of getting to that. Um, I will say that the inspiration part has not been something that it has been something that we've wanted to explore in AI. Really, it has been to make more photorealistic um, sketches or photorealistic pictures of the sketches, or recoloring existing black and white sketches. So we have teams that, a lot of people are still drawing by hand, or they're like drawing in Procreate and putting that up, and then they're putting like these tiny little swatches next to it. And so it's giving merchants a very hard time visualizing.
Mhm.
But the coloring part of it is like yet another work driver for design. So it was like, okay, how can we use AI to help them quickly color sketches so that everybody's happy? It doesn't take very much time for design, and the merchants can actually visualize what this is going to look like and get through their assortment process in a week instead of, a week or 2 weeks instead of months, right?
Mhm.
So we've been really trying to find very specific reasons to use it and not a lot of it. It really does not look like what a lot of what's usually seen out there because
Mhm.
people are doing campaigns and ads and all this other pretty stuff that, to a lot of the bigger companies don't really mean as much. And I'm not saying that there are smaller companies who are not using that, and probably it's very beneficial to them because, they don't have the money for that. But when you're looking in terms of like bigger companies, um, that's not really their first thought, at least not right now.
Mhm. It's true. Jay?
Oh, you have to
Yeah,
unmute her.
yeah, totally. I think Mikhail literally just, yeah, say the right thing about smaller scale company. And where I'm seeing that's literally where they need it for as
Mm.
well. Because they don't have the resource in that area of things. And also I feel I don't know if you guys feel the same. I feel the industry as a whole is shaping in a way also there are a lot more smaller independent brand are emerging like fast.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep.
So I feel we're in a different space like compared to 10, 20 years ago, how fashion, is shaped. Like there's a lot of like established houses, brands, and then a lot of like high street brands dominate the apparel, like kind of market, but now I feel it's shifting in a way that a lot of like in the middle, like they kind of close down, but a lot of small interest independent brand are growing fast. And I think for those kind of brand, like 3D and AI are absolutely like great tool for them to take advantage and explore what the possibility and like
Yeah.
what new model maybe they can come up with. They don't have to follow the fashion calendar like some established brand. They can build their own rules, and that's where I find really exciting. And also that's why I'm on board for with some of my clients. We are building that type of workflow. So, and I think like in terms of like AI, I think so far I use it quite a lot like in the initial stage when we kind of doing concept brainstorming. And because I think it's a great tool to sometimes just clarify the communication by visual, right? We kind of sometimes when you're working with people, it's even with 2D CAD, sometimes it's really hard for another person to visualize that 2D
Mhm.
image as how you imagine it. So then in my workflow or the project that I'm working with, we actually sort of like using AI to generate this still 2D image. But then we kind of like utilize 3D to kind of like maximize the both. We got a look, but we can build a silhouette, build the actual, based on certain block, very quickly mock up the silhouette and to know if this is the fit we're going for. So we already kind of try to tackle the foundation of the design rather than we still talking about, you know, are we still on the color or style, we already kind of like seeing the same thing, try to develop the design that way rather than, mobile stage. So I find that quite useful and then speed up the design development process in that way before we even build proper 3D workflow, the pattern making and tech design. Because that stage we can be so fast by AI image because sometimes it just describe words from client. Because a lot of briefing we know like it's very ambiguous.
Mhm.
They just give you a sentence of, oh, this is what I want. But then maybe words also kind of is interpreted by different people. It has different meaning as well. So I feel by generate AI tool are great to put things visually. So, whoever collaborating on the project can easily visually see things and discuss and develop, at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like another thing. So it's the beginning of the process and the end, like Mikhail was saying, like basically the upscaler, like the enhancer to make the 3D, then kind of become realistic. So then they can take it into the marketing campaign stage. So, and then anything in between, fundamental pattern making, all that. At the moment, we're still waiting for some AI tool to help
Yeah.
pattern making, but I feel
Hmm.
we're still gonna be a
We got
while.
one possible hopeful
Yes.
tool that's
Yes,
coming out, but yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're all part of that journey too. So
Yeah.
let's see. But I just feel like in terms of like skill, kind of was talking about it as well. Like technical designer, really it is sort of like in between pattern maker and designer.
Hmm.
And skill pattern maker are kind of like that gap is becoming bigger and bigger now. And then it's like a great pattern maker generally now maybe they're in factories. They
They
basically
are.
grow with the factory,
Yeah.
not within the fashion house or unless they have proper dedicated atelier, right? They have the tailor or couture room basically. You don't really have in-house pattern maker anymore, generally, you
And
know?
it's
And
a
that's a
lot
problem.
easier to have the
Yes,
factory do a lot for you than it is to have a skilled
exactly. But
person
then
on
that
on
causes another problem about
Yeah.
the inconsistency of the fit for every brand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because when you move in factory, even it's the same tech pack. I talk about this a lot on LinkedIn because
Yeah.
number measurement does not make shape, right?
Yes.
You can have the same measurement to different factory. They come up different shape.
It's
So it just,
it's quote
yeah,
unquote easier, but
yes,
it kind of
no
isn't
problem.
easier for a designer. I remember in my first job, the first sample makers were like down the hall, so it was nice to be able to just walk down there and talk to them and say, nope, actually what I meant was this or that,
Yeah.
mine was active wear. So it was like, oh, that action back is a little too cut out, it's a little too sexy.
Mhm.
Um, so it's easier for the company,
Yes, that's what I
but
meant.
not
So not
easier for
for,
design.
and only easier up front because,
Right.
there have been conversations that, at the end of the process, you don't even see your pattern because you've given them all the rights to everything that has gone on with the actual making of the garment. So even,
Hmm.
having the factory there in the front end, you know, but I want to get back to the AI because we got a couple of questions. I think that whole conversation is a
Yeah.
pivot to one of another talk that we can have with some more other people in that fit space. But yeah, go ahead, Connor. Just finish us out on the
Sure.
AI aspect.
Yeah. So everyone knows now AI is like a double-edged sword. It's like, oh wow, amazing results, but also sometimes you have six fingers. But it's okay because the concept is there. So where I've seen it so far in our industry being used is like at the end of a 3D workflow, your render is done and you can plop it onto an AI model. And I've seen that being really effective, and people can buy based off an image digitally. It's more effective as a selling tool. Um, where I've seen it go wrong is, oh, it actually erased some of the seams that are on the garment, and now it's technically considered a different design.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen bigger companies now incorporating uh, the use of AI in their contracts. And so, everyone, you have to be more aware of where you're sourcing your images are from, or where you're sourcing your images are from, and how you're producing whatever you're producing, either digitally or physically. Because AI is now here, and it's going to be
Yep.
a bigger issue later on when we're
Protecting
all learning.
intellectual property is another huge big issue that we can go deep. The next week's talk's gonna go deep into that
Yeah.
conundrum because you want to protect, but you also want to create, and we all know that people get inspiration from things that are actually already out there. So it's like you said, it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah.
We're running a little bit close, so
Oh,
we have a few minutes over, so we don't have to rush if you guys don't have to rush. I'm going to combine these next two questions because I think they kind of go together. Um, is freelancing becoming a choice or a necessity? I think Jade kind of said like maybe it's a necessity, especially so many more talented people coming into the industry without having their 9 to 5 or 8 to 7, whatever it is that they had before. Companies are laying off and pushing you towards getting your own skill set together to offer as freelancing. But I want to know, like, since it's becoming more of a necessity than a choice, or maybe it's a choice that you have to come to in your own walk, what advice would you give people who are entering the industry that's unstable, that's looking for all these different skills? What is some advice, like some real tangible advice for people coming into the market as a freelancer or coming into this digital environment that's kind of crazy right now?
I
Hey,
would
go ahead. She's
say,
right. Oh, I
oh, go
thought, go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. Let me get you.
Oh,
Hold on.
I would just say to try and meet people and potentially as much as you can, like face to face,
Mhm.
which can kind of be a hard thing. But like if you have local community, meet people, meet as many people as you can face to face. If you can't do face to face, then do, something like this where you actually talk to them. And then third option, obviously just network with them, on a LinkedIn or whatever, because it's tough out here in these designer streets right now. And yeah, to your point, when I saw that question, I thought it was a really interesting question because I have been tutoring a lot of people who have been in the industry for a very long time. All they've really ever known is being employed 9 to 5, and now they've been laid off or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, am I gonna have to freelance? And it's such a foreign thing to them. But to your point, it's almost like they're being pushed into that because they can't seem to find a job, whether that's because they're asking for too much money. They have all this experience. They're overqualified. Whether it's ageism, I mean, let's, real talk, we know what happens. And so it's like you almost it's your only choice, for certain people. And so I have realized, I think I've known this for a very long time and just have finally decided to say it out loud and acknowledge it. That there are a lot of people who are getting hired, who are getting contracts, who are getting their jobs because somebody likes them, not
Mm,
because they are so much more qualified than you. So get out there and start meeting some folks. Um, get a vibe going. And I will say that part of what has kept me working for as long as I was,
mm,
am, has been just my relationships with other people and, just being just who I am, just regular person. But being able to vibe with other people, and somehow it's like, I mean, yes, I eventually you got to perform, so I do have skills, but
mm.
I think what has gotten me into the door has just been my personality and being able to talk to other people.
Interesting. Oh, Jay, do you want to go ahead on that?
Yeah, I think I would basically say maybe start learning other soft skill and business skill.
Mm,
And if you can, I would suggest even invest in yourself to learn from other freelance coach because that's a speed learning method.
mhm,
Because if you never freelance and you're not friends with any freelancer, learning all by yourself, you can do it, but it's just gonna take so much longer, and then you might fail many more times before you actually get it. But
right.
when find your tribe, you basically can learn faster, basically. And I will also advise if anyone thinking potentially they want to do this or just avoid to kind of like, being pushing to this, I would suggest start building your buffer, like both with time and kind of like, a little cushion in terms of money. So when you're actually in that situation, you don't just take out any project or any job out of frustration. So then you underpay. And then you
Mm,
get in a like the thing that we Michael was talking about. You end up being a situation, you just continue doing a job being underpaid and you don't know how to get out. So I would really, yeah, kind of like maybe give that advice as well. Just like, yeah, if you even consider about it, start build up buffer. Just consider as if you are, putting part of money to go on holiday, right? You need to take time off and you need to have a good time on a new journey or new experience. I think it's the same thing, preparation to go into a freelance journey. I think that's yeah, it's like reframe how you're thinking about this transition could be helpful, I think.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. All right. Kana?
Yeah. So both Jade and Mikkel's themes is what I want to drive home as well.
Mhm,
Um, build your network, and you are your best PR team, you yourself, and knowing all these skills, always be learning. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, and just jump into something new. Whether it be something familiar or something unfamiliar, just jump in. I think that is being not just a freelance employee or being an employee of a large company. If you're always learning, you'll always improve yourself and you're building your own PR.
yeah. I think conversations lead to opportunities. So I think the more skill you have, even if you're talking about what you're learning, you're talking about it, you're bringing it, putting light on the subject. And sometimes people will be like, hey, well, maybe you can do that for me, but like Jade said, know your limitations, know your buffers, know what's you're going to say yes and no to. I had a hard lesson with that a couple months ago when somebody said no to a position because they wanted them to do all of the things, and they said no. I admire her for that. She said no, and she stood her ground, and that's it. I mean, she really knows what she wants, so no one will be able to sway you into all of the different, jacks of the trade things that you'll have going on. But what do you think? Our last question is, what do you think brands are expecting, right? Because we mentioned PLM. Is that a thing? Or is that like a product development thing? Like maybe it's a design thing. Like how many different things are we expected? We talked about communication, right? That was one of the things. Um, Speed. We didn't really hit on speed, but being able to be fast at things, I think, especially in 3D, that's one of the things that I became known for. It was like, oh, it takes about 5 hours to do one of these, and I'm done in an hour. But that's because I know pattern making and that's because I know technical design and I'm able to put it together a lot faster. So I think speed is one of the things that we talked about, learning the different softwares and the different programs. Like you said, communication, self-management, Jade. You hit on that self-management and like learning and making your connections and your community strong. I think that was really important. Um, 3D awareness and AI. So let's just talk about PLM because we didn't really mention that, but it's a big part of the industry. It is connected to everything, and I think every software tool is trying to connect to PLM. So, Michael, you have a lot of experience. You mentioned earlier about your PLM. Do you want to maybe you and Kana can kind of feel that
Yeah,
question?
I mean, if you're planning to freelance with a larger company, like if you're going to be an in-house freelancer, or go full time if that's what you want to do as well, more than likely you will encounter some kind of PLM system.
Mhm.
Um, the hard thing about PLM is that there is not only one. And so people have come to me and said, "Hey, can you tutor me in PLM?" And I'm like, no, sorry. Like I can tell you overall what it is, but are you going to use Flex? Are you going to use Centric? Are you going to use B product? Are you going to use WFX? Like there's a million of them. They
Mhm.
all pretty much do the same thing, but they're all set up differently. And it's like where you got to click and where you got to go and that whole thing.
Mhm.
The good thing is that, I personally think, I mean, most companies are going to want, they're going to say, oh, you use Centric, we use Centric. So that is definitely going to be a one-to-one for
It
sure.
may come
They're
up,
going to
yeah.
want you. Yeah. But a lot of times people realize that there are a million of them. And
Yeah.
so if you came from a company that used Flex and they use Centric, they're happy that you at least have used PLM, you know.
Okay.
So it's not the end of the world that you don't know their specific one. And most, even within that particular one, that particular brand, they usually will customize it for every company. So when you walk into a company, they're going to train you anyway.
Okay. Good.
So
Good.
if you can kind of find some way of getting like some kind of PLM under your belt, just so you've done it
Or
once or
even just
twice.
knowing the different ones that are out there,
Right,
you
right.
know.
That's usually enough, you know.
Okay.
Usually not knowing or not having experienced PLM is not the thing that's going to be the deal breaker.
Okay.
But know that you are probably going to encounter it if you're walking into a bigger corporate company.
All right. Connor.
Yeah, following on that, uh, is PLM going away? The answer is no. PLM was made for, I'm looking at like everyone here, uh, because if you ever saved a file in your life and you named it version one, final version one,
I
two,
think we all
three,
might have done that.
there's no source of truth. If someone's asking for a specific file, where are you going to find it? Oh, I have this one, final version 2.3.4.5 from March. That's the real
Mhm.
one. Don't use the one from April. So PLM is that housing source of everything where you're tracking literally the life of the product in different aspects, whether it be the BOM, uploading the sketches, the specs, so on and so forth. So that is like the community of your products of company. And like Mikhail said, it doesn't matter what PLM you know, if you know the basic core concepts of it, generally it's all the same. It's just the where to click, when to click, and why to click. And yes, PLM can be frustrating. I was going to say at times, mostly all the time.
All the time.
But it is a very useful tool into being organized on a product category that is generally unorganized. Um,
Awesome.
I stand by it. I had to train PLM in the past, so there was a lot of
Mm,
frustration
yeah.
and
I
how
think
does
Michael too, and I have too, like training PLM, but it is part of, I want to say the skill set of, corporate life because they're paying for those systems. Really, there are not many PLMs that are for independents or
yeah.
freelancer companies, smaller companies. But I think we're going to wrap that up here. And I think that was a pretty awesome talk, you guys. I thank you so much for coming. Um, we have a couple questions that I'm gonna field for you guys, and then we can see what we can answer. Are you the registrants actually sent in some questions? So I'm just gonna read them and see if we can kind of answer them a little bit briefly. Some of them actually asked the questions while they were here. Um, but Paryanka, I'm not going to say that I said your name right because I probably didn't. How can you make a portfolio better for getting selected for job interviews? I think that is in itself. You guys can give quick quips. That's a whole talk. I think portfolio readiness for entering the job market is a completely different creative talk. And you guys can just touch real quick on that, and then we'll keep going with some of these questions.
The only thing I would say is to make sure that you're um, tailoring your portfolio for that company, um, and making sure that you are like, don't bring bridal to the swimwear company.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and make sure it's pretend like you have the role and that you know the product that you're making. So even a smaller portfolio is okay as long as it hits all those key items that the job description is looking for.
Focused. Go ahead, Jay.
I would say don't overthink it. Like,
Mm,
but categorize them, like Mikhail said, so then you kind of have them ready to kind of tailor to whatever project if you need to make a little adjustment. So don't try to make this master portfolio and then it fit nobody. So try to keep it simple, even PDF file, but for different type of project or your ideal project. If you haven't have experience, just create one that is your dream project that you want to do. Just do a self, like what you
I
call
like
them
that.
again?
Self-project, my
Self-direct.
own, yeah.
Yeah,
Self-discovery.
so yeah, like self-learning or like self-practice type of like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Then you
I like
actually
that.
have them ready when your ideal project or client come, you have
Yeah,
them. So
yeah.
yeah, I would say portfolio, I like to do it that way.
Yeah.
So there's Veronica. She's asking, how do you see the future of 3D in fashion as a design process, as a technical product or technical for production, as a nice visual marketing thoughts? I think we covered a lot of that, Veronica, in this talk. Um, which is most relevant for 3D in fashion? I think understanding where it fits in the pipeline for whatever company that you're working for, because at this point, 3D can be used for visuals, like Kana said, like people are using 3D to dress marketing visuals. Michael mentioned people are using 3D for ideation, visual, whether they're recoloring things or using it for inspiration from something else. Um, and Jade, you basically talked about 3D being part of the fit and technical production process. So I think, Veronica, you're going to replay this and you'll get some really nice answers for that. Could Karina from Argentina, she'd like to ask what skills are essential for the job market since knowing how to use 3D software and being a fashion designer seems knowing about patterns isn't enough. I think we actually covered that a lot too. So, Karina, you could definitely replay this if you're on right now, or if you've asked that question and you haven't gotten an answer, you can contact us. But I think we pretty much covered that because it's really about your communication. It's about what you're offering to the different companies and which companies you're talking to. And that's really going to be how you know what to actually put forward for your journey. Let's see. Yeah, so I think Janine is on here. She can definitely see what she's asking. Where is the best place to find freelance roles? that are legit and trustworthy. Upwork, there are different wins and different pitfalls that people can get into for projects and different things like that. So I'll let you guys answer that because I think all of you have a great perspective on that.
I
Where can
I am not a fan of Upwork,
okay.
even less of a fan of Fiverr, but that has worked for some people. So I won't, I'm not going to totally discount it. Um, I think I mentioned before, like I, it's, hmm, I won't say it's harder, but I think the most trustworthy is getting it from your connections, letting other people know this is what I do, this is what I'm looking for. LinkedIn has been really helpful. Um, and then, but yeah, mostly getting in with other people who I know in the industry and letting them know this is what I'm doing now. And a lot of them have been the ones that have kept me employed for the last 20, well, I've been in it 28 years. I would say freelancing, like 10, 15 years.
Mm, okay.
Yeah. Use your network is the best way. And if you don't have a network, build your own network. Build a
Okay.
small community and then work through that network.
I
Awesome.
think I'm gonna say it relate back to what I talked about earlier, like yeah, building kind of like build time and buffer time and that type of thing. It connect. It's like you need to be ready to put yourself out there. So you need to allow yourself to have a time to kind of like, okay, I think like this I learning as well as a freelancer, you actually do need to put yourself out there if you're not a fan of keep cold pitching. So you have to put yourself out there so people can find you. Otherwise, nobody know what you do. That's a lesson I learned along the way as well. Otherwise, you would just rely on referrals, and those there's limitation based on referrals. Even they're trustworthy, but I also do feel sometimes they lock you in a circle that maybe you want to jump out because maybe you learn new skills, you want to do different things, and you want to charge differently. There's like yeah layers to different stage of freelancing too.
Mm,
But I would say like yeah, basically those kind of platform. I personally I'm not on it, but for beginners, I think if you can kind of like productize your service, those platform I think can work well to start with. Otherwise, you need to learn, like I said, maybe from other freelance coach, how can you build yourself up,
mhm.
to, project-based type of project, then you kind of need to learn those skills.
Awesome. You guys, thank you for going a little bit over time and all of your insights and valuable inputs. This was really a great talk. I think you guys can just put if you're still here, you can clap in the chat. And thank you for Michael and Jade. You guys have been answering things in the chat as well, and I appreciate that of you. So this will be replayed on LinkedIn. It will also be replayed on Spotify and on YouTube. So once I get everything together, this recording will be edited down so you can't see all of the mute, unmute. But anyway, we will all get together and be able to get all that we can from this talk. And I hope it was, insightful for you guys. And next week's talk is going to be on AI and fashion, and we'll probably answer a lot more questions on that subject as well. So thank you guys. I appreciate you so much. And it's all awesome. And we can sign off whenever you're ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
You got it. Bye bye.